Hey there friends, David Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. This is the executive producer of our show, Huck. Huck and I just got back from a 3-mile hike. She's a little whooped. Yeah, oh, but you were a good girl, huh? Oh yeah, you were. You were a good girl. We had fun. It's about 45 degrees back in the woods today. It was a little cool. She likes that though. You liked that, didn't you? Yeah. It was fun, huh? Yeah? He's a good girl. All right. Well, we got a good show for you today. A little interesting one for sure. A lot of you have written to me in the last 2-3 weeks about the case of the 2 kids missing out of Nova Scotia. And I've told you that if you go over to my Twitter page, and the address is @CanAmMissing, that I've written and I've analyzed it a lot. Well, on May 16th, an article came out in the CBC. That's essentially Canadian government propaganda. But I thought the article was interesting, and it was about the missing kids. And I'm going to go through this with you, just like I would a normal case, and explain to you some things I see about it. Here's the title: Experts point to anomalies in unprecedented case of missing Nova Scotia children. 2 weeks after 2 young siblings vanished without a trace in rural Nova Scotia, experts are pointing to anomalies in what they say is unprecedented and deviates from a typical missing children investigation. Lily Sullivan, 6, and her brother Jack, 4, have been missing since May 2nd. That's when police received a 911 call reporting that they have wandered away from their home on Lansdowne Station, a sparsely populated area 140 kilometers northeast of Halifax. Nova Scotia RCMP launched a search and included ground search, rescue teams, dog teams, drones, and helicopters. After 6 days of scouring the heavily wooded areas surrounding the home, there was no sign of the kids. Search was called off. Police have said they do not believe the children were abducted, but have not ruled out the case as suspicious. Stop. So if the kids were not abducted, that means that nobody outside the family could have taken them, right? That's what the police said. But if it's suspicious, that has to point back towards the parents. Now, right from the get-go, I said on my Twitter page, in 5,000 cases involving kids that I've reviewed, I have never heard of the mother leaving the house to go live hundreds of miles away with another family. Yet that's what this mother did. She is the maternal mother of these kids, while the stepfather stayed at the house. I've never seen that before. Usually mothers want to be right in the middle of the search looking for the kids. Now, I'm not pointing any fingers, I'm just giving you facts. Michelle Jennis, an associate professor of criminal justice at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, says the facts of this case and apparent lack of evidence makes it an anomaly. Quote, "It doesn't meet a lot of the normal criteria for what we would see in these types of cases," said Janice, whose research areas include missing persons and juvenile justice. I've never heard of this person, but that doesn't really mean anything. "Usually there's evidence in some way that would suggest something nefarious has happened. It mirrors those adult missing person cases that we would call quiet disappearances. There's no evidence." The children's stepfather, Daniel Martel, told CBC News that children were not in school on Thursday or Friday, the morning of the disappearance, due to illness. They also weren't at school on Wednesday due to Professional Development Day. It could just be incredibly bad timing that they had 48 hours unaccounted for before the disappearance, but that's just one of the things that stands out in my head, she said. Police will not say if anyone else had contact or saw the children in the days leading up to their disappearance. So the police aren't saying if they can confirm that the kids were in that house Wednesday or Thursday before they disappeared Friday. Why wouldn't they say that? If they knew the kids were there, why wouldn't they say it? Right? Janice said she believes police should be considering whether a person played a part. In a stereotypical kidnapping by a stranger, the offender doesn't usually target a specific child or children. They create a plan, and whoever is in the environment at the time falls victim. It doesn't seem like that would be the case here, because what we know is they were in their backyard in a rural community. We don't know that. We're told that by the parents. So it is not likely that they were walking to school or at the gas station or something where it can be easily a snatch situation, she said. So if it was a typical, stereotypical kidnapping, it would have not been somebody who said, I want those kids particular. The 2 children were reported missing from this home on Garlock Road in Lansdowne Station, 25 kilometers southwest of New Glasgow. Nova Scotia RCMP said on Tuesday they were following up on more than 180 tips from members of the public. The Mounties said 35 people were identified for formal interviews, including community members and those closest to the children. Michael Arntfield, a criminologist at Western University in London, Ontario, called the case unprecedented, saying it's highly unlikely for 2 siblings who live together to vanish when a parent is not involved. That's what I said. That's exactly what I said. And there's no evidence of that. If that had been the case, I think we would have heard about it very quickly, he said. I don't think so. Because the quality of the law enforcement dictates the investigation. When I first reviewed this, I said right away, if this had been a United States case, the second or third day where they had nothing, the FBI would have been on the scene the second day. Their child abduction task force team. They are the best of the best of the best of the FBI. I've worked with them. If my kid was missing, I'd want them on the case. That's how good they are. They're all former law enforcement, like working for the city police or the sheriffs. And then they went to the FBI. So they have the background of talking to people, talking to criminals. Normal FBI agents, a lot of them don't have that history behind them. And I said that the second day that this had absolutely nothing, or third day, the FBI would be calling those parents in and doing a polygraph on them. And then a lot of people contradicted me and said how worthless polygraphs are, blah, blah, blah. They don't understand polygraphs. I've worked around it my whole career. Your polygraph exam starts when you walk into that room, not when you're on the machine. You're being evaluated from the moment you step in. How you handle yourself, your words, your mannerisms, the way you express yourself. It all comes into play. And the polygraph is a tool. It doesn't answer a lot of questions. It's a tool. The Mounties said 35 people were identified for questioning. Michael Arntfield, blah, blah, blah. There's no evidence of that. If that had been the case, I think we would have heard about it quickly. I disagree. The case, when you overlay it on 100 other missing children cases, it just doesn't add up at many levels. Yep. It's been 2 weeks since siblings Lily Sullivan and Jack vanished without a trace. The RCMP are continuing their investigation and say there's no evidence of abduction. The RCMP are saying that the kids weren't abducted. That only leaves 2 options, folks. The parents killed them, or they're in the woods still. Think about what are the other options? Arntfield said he thinks police should be more forthcoming with information about the case, given the public is being solicited for information. He said following up on 180 tips requires a great deal of resources. Police can't be everywhere, so they rely on cases like this on the eyes and ears of the public. And that needs to be a two-way street in terms of information. Incorrect, sir, professor. You don't want to tip your hand too early to the suspects in the case. You want them to make a mistake in that investigative path. Police aren't entitled to give you information on an ongoing criminal case. I agree with that 100%. Otherwise, they're just going to get tips that really just get bogged down in the investigation and aren't necessarily of some sort of value. He also said police should have publicly, in the early days of the search, whether the case was considered suspicious. What if they didn't know? What if they really believed the kids were in the woods? But if I was a detective on the case and the mother left, whoops, that would have changed the scope of my thinking 180 degrees until they prove otherwise. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and there's some active lead being worked that they don't want to upset the equilibrium that they're in, said Arnfield. But based on appearances, this went in the wrong direction early on, and key momentum and leads were lost when they were out in the fields looking for the kids that maybe were never there. This guy's an idiot. First of all, if two parents tell you, yeah, our kids disappeared in the backyard here, and all it is woods, and you just discounted that, you are a fool. Because what if the kids turned out to be out there and you never looked? What is this guy doing? What's he saying? I don't get it. You've got to do your due diligence, but you do it on both sides of the fence. You put hundreds of people out there looking, but you're also doing background on the parents. Martel told CBC News on Friday via email that he was told by police not to disclose updates during the investigation. The children's maternal grandmother, Cindy Muria, said police have advised the family against speaking to the media. I don't believe that. I said on my Twitter feed, why don't the journalists ask the RCMP, did you tell the parents not to talk to the media? They're going to say, no, we never did that. And if they say, yeah, we told them that, I would ask them, why did you tell them that? Why can't the parents talk to us, the media? I've never heard of police telling parents that they can't talk to the press. In missing persons kids cases, you want as much press as possible. You want everyone in the world knowing. Stuffed animals and flowers rest on the posts outside of the RCMP detachment in Stellarton in honor of Lily and Jack. Nova Scotia RCMP declined an interview request and would not answer specific questions about the case. That's interesting. In a statement, spokesperson Corporal Carly McCann said police have spoken to a majority of people identified as potentially having information to support the investigation. And other interviews are scheduled to take place in the coming days and weeks. Weeks? Friends, if you don't have enough detectives to interview all the people under suspicion within a couple days, you don't have enough quality detectives. To wait weeks for those interviews is crap. Officers involved are also continuing to follow up on all new tips and come in, said McCann, adding that to ensure the integrity of the investigation, no further details will be released. McCann declined to provide more information about why police believe the children were not abducted. Yeah, there's the key. On Friday, Kevin McLean at Colchester Ground Search and Rescue said searchers will be back in the woods on Saturday and Sunday with volunteers from multiple search and rescue teams. In a news release Friday evening, RCMP said the search will focus on specific areas around Garlock Road. Now, I have my suspicions of why that search and rescue team is out there. They're looking for freshly moved soil, a grave. And they're probably going to have cadaver dogs out there with the search and rescue teams along the road that the people lived on. That's my suspicion on that. Now, just to be 100% transparent, I have no idea if the parents are involved. The stepfather said early on in the investigation, he goes, hey, I'll take a polygraph right now. And then the RCMP said, okay, in a couple of days, we're going to give you a polygraph. I never know if the polygraph was taken. Nobody ever said the results. But I never heard the mom say she would take a polygraph. And that was at the time where he was the lone one at the house and she was gone. And I have not seen her make a statement on the case since I think day one. The stepfather was front and center in front of the news. She was not. Why? Why? I've never known a mom to be like that on one of these cases. So I'll say, I think that they mishandled the case from the very beginning. Like I said, I've been involved in child abduction cases with that Paulides case before. Right away, the FBI went to Paulides' father and said, hey, why don't you take a polygraph? He was offended at the beginning, he understood at the end, and he took it. And that cleared him of any involvement in the case. In those kind of instances, I'm the detective. I'm sorry if I ruffled the feathers of the parents by asking them to take a polygraph, but you know what? I'm really not here for you. I'm here for those innocent kids that are missing. And my job is to find them and to get them back home safely. If I ruffle your feathers along the way, I'm sorry. But if I'm following known protocol that works, I'm going to follow it. Okay. The story today deals with a man who disappeared in Wales, in the UK. His name was Ashley Wilbraham, 38 years old. It's Ashley. Went missing February 23rd of this year, 2025. He resides in Hayter, UK, has 2 kids, really tight with his mom and his aunt and his family. And twice a year, they all get together and go to the coast of Wales, rent a house, and everybody hangs out. On Saturday, February 22nd of this year, Ashley and his 2 kids joined his mom, whose name was Janine, his aunt, whose name was Sadie, and Janine's granddaughter, and they all arrived at their rental home in a city called Borth in the Ceredigion region of Wales. I know some people are going to say, oh, he really blew that name. This is how you say it, Dave. Don't even try. Don't even try. I don't care. But you know what? If I pronounced it so people would understand it and be able to look it up, that's the whole point of it. So that region of the coast is a perfect mix of coast and countryside. It's one of the least populated areas for UK tourism. This is what many sites have stated. There's lots of traditional family farms and a great cheese producing region. And then the city of Borth, which is in that region, is a seaside resort area. It's got a 3-mile long sandy beach. The area is known for swimming, sailing, and surfing. The city of Borth is pretty well known because they've got a pretty cool railroad museum there. And then they have a beach. You spell the name of the beach Y-N-S-L-A-S. We'll call it the Y Beach. And nature preserve, and it has sand dunes. Now the cool thing about this beach is that when the tide goes out, it exposes petrified ancient trees and a petrified forest that goes back 1500 to the year 1500 BC. And the Y Beach is just on the other side of Borth. Now you kind of understand where it is. Now, the general area of where they were at. So this is the city they lived in. They traveled about an hour and 11 minutes, and they end up on the coast at Borth. Liverpool, Manchester, Isle of Man. This is Ireland over here, Dublin. Kind of get a feeling for where they're at. Now, February 22nd, the entire group arrived on a Saturday and went out for dinner. Janine said everyone had a great time, laughing and joking, happy to see each other, talking about old times, just like a perfect family get-together. The next day, Sunday, February 23rd, family had brought their dogs with them, so they take the dogs for a walk and they wandered through some nearby shops. And Ashley was talking to one of the shop owners, and they told him that one of the local businesses, a place called the Cambrian Coast Caravan, was having the Liverpool soccer game on TV later that day. Ashley was a big soccer fan, said, hey, I think I may want to go to that. Well, the family made it back to their rental cottage. And then at about 5 o'clock, Ashley said, hey, I think I'm going to go watch the soccer game. And he asked his 15-year-old son, Riley, if Riley wanted to go with him. Now, Janine said Ashley wasn't a big drinker at all. He'd go, have 1 or 2 drinks, that'd be about it. So she wasn't worried about him. He was a reliable dad, loved his son a lot. Typical father-son thing to do, go watch the sporting event. Well, they went to the pub. The remainder of the family stayed behind at the rental home. Now, over that next hour, a bad storm moved in. Heavy rain, wind, just pounded Borth and that coast. Now, Ashley and Riley were in the pub watching the soccer game. Now, towards the end of their time there, it was just Ashley and Riley and 2 employees of the pub. Now, at about 5:30, Ashley spoke to a friend of his by phone, and Riley said, yeah, they had a great talk. He was laughing and joking. Everything was great. Everything was normal. The pub later reported that Ashley just had 2 mixed drinks. That was it. There was some CCTV footage of Ashley and Riley leaving the pub. And they were kind of dancing their way out of the pub, laughing, joking. They weren't staggering. Everything seemed completely normal. So that was at 6:30 when they leave the pub. 6:45, Ashley calls Janine, his mom, and states, hey, we're ready to be picked up at the bus stop near the beach. And he said, hey, try to make it quick because I forgot my coat at the restaurant. It was rainy, windy, and they needed shelter to get out of the elements. It was a blistery storm. Mom says, okay, I'm going to send your aunt out to get you, and she'll be there in a few minutes. He says, okay. So Sadie, the mom's sister, his aunt, puts 2 of the grandkids in the car and drives out to pick up Ashley and Riley. So where the story gets a little odd, to say the least. So Sadie drives out to the bus stop, knows where it's at, and sees Ashley sitting there. She pulls up, he gets in the car, and he's just completely frazzled. He explains that he and Riley got into an argument. It wasn't a big one, but Riley got mad, left the bus coverage, and went towards the beach. It was later assumed by Janine, the mom, that they were arguing about something about the soccer game, but she didn't know what. Sadie later explained that Ashley was deeply distraught over his son. And everyone said that this was not his normal temperament. He was really easygoing, happy, got along with people. Just an easygoing person. Ashley said that he was worried about Riley and he was actually freaking out in the back seat. So Sadie gets the car door closed, and they were going to drive to the beach where he believed Riley had went. Sadie says, "Hey, I didn't know the area too well. I thought the beach was this direction." She starts to drive that direction, and Ashley yells, "No, no, no, wrong way, wrong way." He opens the car door, jumps out while it's rolling, and takes off at a dead run towards the sand and the beach. Sadie goes, "I've never seen him act like that." She couldn't believe it. So the door gets closed, and now she has two people missing, Riley and Ashley. She doesn't know what to think. So she goes back to the bus stop that has a little covering on it. She gets there about 5 minutes, and there's Riley standing there. She pulls up, Riley gets in the car, and she asks, "Have you seen your dad?" He said, "No, I thought you picked him up." She said, "No, he went looking for you." "No, I haven't seen him." So Sadie and Riley and the grandkids are driving around looking for Ashley out here in the dark, in the storm, in the muck. They look for him for 20, 30 minutes, and they decide they better go back and get Janine. They go back, get Janine. She gets involved, starts searching too with Sadie. And after a lengthy search, they give up and they call the police. So you got to remember this scenario. This is a big storm. Wind, rain. Rain's blowing sideways. The police tell her that, yeah, we'll take a report, but the weather is so bad that they couldn't put up helicopters to search. And the waves are so bad that the Coast Guard boats wouldn't go out. But they'd send some ground teams out to search the area. Well, Janine, in the back of her mind, I'm sure, is thinking, Ashley knows where this house is. He's been here before. So maybe he's going to walk in the door in the next few minutes. I can just imagine they're all thinking that. So Janine later told the press that Ashley was an easygoing dad who may have had his personality affected by alcohol. That's the only thing she could think, because it was absolutely bizarre behavior. She said he was the kind of guy that got along with everybody. And that he never showed one indicator of any kind of mental illness or any compromised mental state, ever. And he was looking forward to attending the Crufts dog show the following week. And he also had a family vacation planned in Ireland in May. And his daughter's birthday was just a few days away. So he had a lot to look forward to. So him disappearing really confused everybody. Police put out a bulletin, and they asked all residents in Bort to look at their front door cams, CCTV footage, check their backyards. He may have taken cover in the storm. They never got anything. Nobody ever called. It was completely bizarre. Police and the family made multiple attempts at searching while using night vision. Janine, his mom, has done multiple interviews with the press in the last couple months. And she explained that Ashley's daughter is devastated. Doesn't understand. Where's Dad? And Riley believes that his dad's going to walk through the door one of these days. From an investigative standpoint, I never saw any word that the police pinged Ashley's cell phone for a location. It has been confirmed that nobody has been contacted by Ashley since his disappearance. And Janine has made a public plea in Borth and in where they live, if anyone knows anything, to please come forward and talk to her, the police. So this is a little more up close view. This is where they lived. They drove 38.4 miles to Borth. And then there's a long 3-mile beach here. It's really pretty. And it's a good place to hike, walk. Just clean your soul up, air it out. This is Aaron National Park. So you kind of get the idea. Now, over the course of the next 2 weeks, you're going to see another beach case. I'm going to call this a beach case because he was last seen running to the beach. Another beach case, this time it involved a young person. But what do the beach cases have? Happen next to water. In this one, there was also a weather issue. In this one, there was alcohol involved as well. Just like a missing 411, a sobering coincidence. All those people were under 40 years old. All of them were white males, essentially. All of them had been drinking at some level, and all of them disappeared in or about water. I pray that Ashley's found. But if the police haven't found him by now, if there's been no activity on his cell phone, if he hasn't used his credit cards, if he hasn't called family, and as tight as he is with his kids, I just, personally, I couldn't have gone this long without calling the kids. No way. So pray for a miracle. And Sadie, the aunt, don't blame yourself. You tried to do the right thing when you were out there by helping Ashley. And Janine, hold the faith. You're the only advocate left for Ashley. You keep pushing those police for answers. Ask the police if anyone has ever disappeared in that beach area before and not been found. And ask for the circumstances. Don't be afraid. You guys, Sekinah's revolution costs nothing to be kind. But remember, if you're ever the parent of someone who disappears, you are the #1 advocate for them anywhere in the world. You've got to step up. You've got to fight the fight. If people aren't working, give them a polite push in the rump and say, come on, please help me. I need it. And if you don't get the help from them, you go to their superiors. If it's in the United States, you go to a congressman or a senator. Thanks for being here. Paulides out.